Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 78 of the ReInvent You podcast. I am your host, Tanya Carter, and thank you so much for joining me this week. So, we are now in the month of February, and one of the most popular days of this month is Valentine's Day, which will be within the next week. And for those who are listening, this day could be challenging for you, right? I mean, it just really can be. Let's be honest. Maybe this is your first Valentine's Day since your breakup or your divorce. Maybe you all had special moments that were shared around this day and around this time of the year. Maybe it's been a while since the dissolving of your relationship, but you're still having difficulty being single, or maybe just the overall pressure of believing I gotta be with somebody. And then you have things such as the marketing and the advertising in the stores and in the commercials about Valentine's Day, not to mention your social media, where your timeline is being completely flooded with couples going out, people getting engaged, and not to mention the relationship gurus that place high emphasis on having someone. And then you just start creating this unhealthy narrative about yourself, about your life. And you just start to say things or think things such as, I hate being single, or being single sucks, or why I can't have someone to share this day with. Or you start to compare yourself to others on where they are relationally versus where you are. Asking yourself maybe, well, why them and not me? Because, I'm a good person, right? And that only takes you down a rabbit hole, only to beat yourself up and put yourself in a very defeated space. Now, I want to put a disclaimer out here because I always do this when I talk about being single. In no way am I downplaying individuals desiring a relationship. That's not what this is about. However, what I have seen and known to be an issue for quite a few who are single is the misconception that you can't embrace being single. Okay. It's almost like it's an either or thing. In order to embrace being single, you must not desire a relationship, or in order to desire a relationship, you must dislike being single. And it really doesn't have to be either or. It truly can be both and. And what's also so vital is understanding that the relationship that we cultivate within ourselves influences the relationships we entertain. So if you want to be honest, being single goes far beyond a certain day of the year or even a relationship status. It's actually much deeper than that. And that's what we're going to talk about today with my guest. Okay. I wanted to bring a guest in to have this conversation around this topic. And I was on her website where she has a quote that states, no matter your relationship status, in order to have fulfillment and overflow in your life, you have to begin with the relationship that you have with yourself. And so my guest today is Coach Jos'Lyn. Coach Jos'Lyn is a Navy veteran, an ICF certified life coach, and a transformational speaker with an MBA in digital entrepreneurship. She is passionate about helping women to get fulfillment out of life and their relationships by starting with the relationship that they have with themselves. She teaches her clients how to properly set boundaries, build confidence, and practice self-love. Okay. So without further ado, Coach Jos'Lyn, thank you. I appreciate you being here on today's episode. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. This is such an important topic and perfect timing because in my community, this is self-love month. Even though this is the month of love per se, this is self-love month for us in the Date Thyself community because our greatest relationships can only be great when we start with the relationship that we have with ourselves first. We give from an overflow place. And a lot of times we are so empty and depleted. And we're like, I'm just, it's just not working in the relationships that I have. I'm not getting anything from them, or I can't keep a relationship, whether it be platonic or whether it be a romantic relationship. But for me, it all starts within.
Absolutely. I'm an advocate for that myself. I really do believe that that self-love is really the best love. I know it sounds very cliche, but when you go to the root and go into the core of what that really means, you'll see the significance in how it plays with you and the relationships that you have around you. And so I had a question. What inspired you to pursue this work? What empowered you to say, you know what, this is something that I want to do. This is something I want to be able to pursue to help other women. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So it started with my own personal journey. As you said, I am a Navy veteran. And at the time, I was stationed in Mayport, Florida. And I had just came from being overseas. And so I was kind of back fresh to dating. And before I had got back, someone that I knew, I actually grew up with this person, had reached out to me, and we started talking before I came back to the States. And we decided to date. Now, he was in the Army, so we're not stationed in the same place. He was stationed in Georgia and I was stationed in Florida. So we're still pretty close, but it was a long distance relationship. And in that, I kept feeling like this is a great relationship, but something feels off. I don't know what it is, but something feels off. And it's like, am I self-sabotaging? Because I kept feeling like something's wrong. Even though everything was great, when he would come visit me, he would cook for me, he took care of everything. There was absolutely nothing that I had to do. He treated me like a queen, but I still couldn't get rid of that nagging feeling. And one day it just came to a point and I was like, I have to figure this thing out. So of course, as most young women do, I called my mom and I said, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm unclear. It's something wrong, but I don't know what to do. And she will say two words I will never forget. She said, Google him. And so when I Googled him, I was like, okay, those first few lines were, of course, things about him being in the military. So him getting promotions and stuff like that. So I wasn't thrown off by that. But then after that first scroll, that's when I saw it, that it was a baby registry with his name and his alleged ex-wife's name on it, dated 3 months prior. And I found out that he was still married, very married, with a baby on the way. And I had totally been deceived for a whole year and a half. I had no idea because, of course, most of the time he came to see me. When I came to see him, I have no idea where she was at. But it was just one of those things. I was so devastated that in that moment, at the time I was a smoker. So I took a shot of Jack Daniels and I lit a cigarette and I was just like, I'm going to kill this dude.
Right.
Because I was so upset. And it was like, well, how did I miss the red flags? What was I missing? What were the things that I was seeking him for that I either should have been seeking from within myself or I should have been seeking God for? And that's how this whole journey of Date Thyself began for me. Because what I realized was that in previous relationships, I never forgave myself for what I allowed to happen, including in that one. So forgiveness played a huge part into how I would approach dating again, because if you don't forgive, you won't release people or release the situation. And we're doomed to repeat the same things over and over again. And then I had to look within myself and say, well, where is my confidence? What is it that I need from me? Where is the love that I need to receive from me? Because one thing that I teach my clients is that my happiness is my responsibility. Your happiness is your responsibility, not someone else's. Because if they leave or take it away, then what are you left with? We can't count on other people to make us happy. Our happiness is our responsibility, as well as our joy comes from God, but our joy doesn't come from anybody else. And once we understand that and we go back to building our confidence and loving ourselves again, because let's face it, how do we expect someone to be with us if we don't want to be with us? If you're single and you don't like spending time with you, how do you want somebody else to spend time with you?
For real.
I had to learn how to enjoy my own company. I had to learn how to put myself first in a way that I was in an overflow place, meaning that I had plenty to give because I was given so much to myself. And I wasn't expecting it from other people, but I was allowing myself to be filled, because a lot of times we put our needs and our wants on other people when really it is up to us to do these things. It is up to us to build our self-esteem, not someone else's. It is up to us to love and care for ourselves, because when we think about love, what is love? Love is when you take care of something, when you take time with it and you take care of the needs of it. So when we truly love ourselves, when we know that we need something, we'll take care of that need. When we know that if we need, for instance, you may say, I'm not feeling very loved right now. I'm feeling like there's nobody supporting me. Well, how can you support yourself? You can support yourself by taking your own self out on your dates, for celebrating yourself, celebrating every win that you have. I encourage my clients to celebrate their wins because it gets you excited and it builds your confidence. But not to go too deep, but that was one of the reasons why I started this, because I wanted to be the person that I was searching for. I didn't have a sister friend or somebody else that I could go to while I was going through this situation, because honestly, most of the women that were in my life were either married and happily married, so they felt like it was beyond them to speak life into how I felt. And then the single women that I knew, they were bitter, so they wanted to sow seeds of bitterness in me, that I would have bitter habits of, the best way to get over an old love is to get under a new man, and, these destructive habits that aren't helpful. So I had to be for myself what I needed from someone else. And that's why I started this community, because I wanted to be that listening ear, that guiding light to say that this can be done.
Well, that's good. That was really good. I think you said something that you basically said in a nutshell, that you had to be the person you needed to be to attract the relationships that you desire. So with that being said, is it safe to say you did have a challenge being single at one point in your life?
Oh, absolutely.
What
Absolutely.
were some of the challenges, or what were some of the things that you found to be difficult being single?
Well, number one is loneliness. Loneliness
Okay.
is definitely something that as singles we all experience. But what I will say, as a divorcee, I will say that sometimes you can be lonely in a relationship too. So you have
Did you see my
to,
face?
yes,
You can. No, seriously, you can.
you can. So when it comes to regards to loneliness, we have to create a way to cope. Is not really the word that I want to use, but you have to create ways to conquer that loneliness, because you can experience it in relationship. I think as singles, sometimes we often feel like we're the only ones experiencing that, because how can a person who lives with someone feel lonely? Well, we don't know the cost that that person paid to be in that relationship, and you never know what goes on behind closed doors. So I want to encourage singles to not envy people in relationship, or because some of these relationships, especially on social media, are farce. Let's just be honest. They're not what they seem. And even if they aren't, no relationship is without challenges. So the first thing I would say is definitely loneliness. And because
Okay.
I was in the military, I was often busy, but when we would come back into port and I was just having a regular 9 to 5 day, I found it difficult because I was so used to being busy, on the go, running all the time, 18 hours a day, because I was out to sea. And then now I'm like, oh shoot, I'm sitting here with me. What
Right.
am I supposed to do now? And then another one, now this is just a personal journey that I did, but I decided in that time that I wanted to be celibate. And that was difficult for me too, because I of course I was having sex in relationships, but I don't recommend that. But celibacy helped me to do what I say, take the beer goggles off. I saw situations and people for who they really are, and not what I wanted them to be because I was attracted to them. So the
Mm-hmm.
celibacy part was hard because it forced me to really look at relationships with men and really look at the relationships that I have. So I didn't date for a long time because I was like, I have to clear all of this gunk. I don't want to accuse someone that I'm newly dating of cheating when that's not it. They may do one thing that reminded me of this past situation, and that don't necessarily have to be the case. So another thing, the challenge was just trying to clear my head of all the junk of past relationships. And I highly recommend with that to journal. Journaling allows you to really take a look at what is in your head. Like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times we're like, oh, it's in my head, so I understand it, but you get a whole nother perspective when you can get feedback and you read that back to yourself.
No, that's actually really good. I like that. The loneliness, the detoxing because of maybe what you were mentally and emotionally connected to from previous relationships, being celibate. And those are growing pains. Like this isn't not, I mean, it sounds great when we're talking about it, but going through that process, I mean, you can easily revert back, going back doing things that you know really isn't healthy for you. So I'm glad that you shared that because quite a few women probably, or I would say most likely, feel the same way you do. When it comes to being single, do you feel like it's more than just the relationship status?
Well, I do want to say this. Single just means whole one. It's not like it's something broken about that, and I think because of social media, we're always so focused on a particular status or a particular title when, let's just be honest, this is your life you're dealing with. And I think we should think outside the box besides the status, because like I said, this is your life. So don't be so worried about the status of, oh, I'm single. There are plenty, because let me say this. If you desire a relationship, I believe that it's because you're going to get the desire of your heart, because let's be honest, not every single woman want to be in a relationship. Some people are single and they are thriving and they are happy, and they don't want nobody coming in and disturb their groove. You know what I'm saying? They are perfectly happy and content in their situations, and I think that's great. So number one, I believe if you desire it, then it's going to come to you. But there is some work that must be done, and no season in your life is without obstacles. When we understand that, then I think it makes it easier to overlook, okay, well, I'm single. Okay, that's just a status, but it doesn't really mean what the world try to tell us that it means. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because what you want to do is go into a healthy relationship as a healthy person. None of us are without fault. We all have our faults. But at the same time, there are building blocks in our lives and ways that we have to go through this life alone so that we can deal with ourselves, so that someone else, again, can come in and add value to us and we can comfortably walk this life out together.
No, that's good. I know you mentioned for you, being single, one of your challenges was loneliness. And but why do you think being single is hard for other people? And the reason why I asked this question is because I do have to respectfully agree when you say everybody doesn't want to be married or be in a relationship. There are people who are really fine being single, and that's not even being birthed from bitterness or a place of hate. It's just they really are content in it. Why do you think that being single is hard for many? Do you think pressure? It's specifically for women. Do you think there's a lot of pressure around women being in a relationship? Do you feel as if their value is connected to their relationship status a lot? Do you hear that from maybe some of your clients or people in your community?
Yes, I think that unfortunately we're still in a world where it's like the 1950s, where if you're not married by a certain age, then your worth goes down as you get older. At least that's what it appears to be. And that couldn't be further from the truth. It's women in their 50s and 60s getting married all the time because they wanted to enjoy their careers. But a lot of women feel pressure by that, especially career driven women, because it's like, oh, you shouldn't put your career, when are you gonna settle down? And it's like, I am settled. I have a career, I have a home, I have all of my needs met. I mean, what more, and then pressure from family, that's a big one. Pressure from family on wanting them to settle down. And I think it comes from a good place, but in a wrong way. Especially with mothers, they want to know that someone is taking care of their daughter, and that if they pass on, then they know that they're okay. But we can still take care of ourselves too. I would much rather be patient and wait for the right person than to get with the wrong person and now have to spend even more time healing from the wrong person because I felt pressured to just do something. And I hear a lot of women, especially divorced women, they felt pressure. They were really young when they got married, and it was at a time when they didn't even know themselves. And that's another thing that's so important in singleness too. You need to understand your identity. Who do you identify as? Who are you? That's something that I've asked on my prior podcast, is like, who are you? If you can't answer that question, it's hard for you to be yourself, even in relationship.
Right. And when we say, who are you, we're speaking more than just your degree, your position, your, because that's what tends to be the bio, right? Yes. When you ask, well, who are you? Well, I'm a mom. I'm a entrepreneur. I'm an accountant. I'm this, I'm that. But if we remove the labels, can people really identify who and whose they are without those labels being attached? Would that be accurate?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Because we'll hide under titles because they feel good, they feel comfortable, and it feels good to say, like you just said, oh, I'm a small business owner who, I have these many degrees and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, those are just titles. Those are achievements. Those aren't exactly who you are. Who are you?
Yeah.
And I know for a lot of women, it's difficult because who's ever asked us that?
Correct. And who's ever taught us this, right? Because Absolutely. A lot of us have been taught that we're loved based on what we do have attached to us, what we have performed. That has been the transaction of love. What you have, what you can do for me, what your titles look like. And so no one has ever said, okay, without that, do you still feel or even believe that you hold value, right? That right there, that is really important. Just getting deep on who and whose you are. Now, I know you said something else about having platonic relationships and things of that nature. And I want to kind of talk about that because there's a lot of talk around being with someone romantically. But what about other relationships? Because those relationships are, in my opinion, probably are more important. And when I say relationships, I'm talking about all kinds of ships, right? Yeah. I'm talking about parents. I'm talking about our friendships. How significant are those? Like, what do you find in the women that you work with the relationships that they have attached to them, friendships? Do they feel like they're people pleasers there? Do they feel like they don't have boundaries there? I mean, like, what are those relationships like in some of them that you work with?
Absolutely. Some of them lack boundaries, which is another thing that, we often have to talk about, is that boundaries aren't a wall. Boundaries are more of a fence, if you will. You want to be able to allow good things in and release the things that aren't good. And in your boundaries, you keep you and the other person safe. And I think that because a lot of people have been mistaught about what boundaries truly are, they'll become people pleasers in their relationships. And they feel like, well, I've let this person down, or, we don't consider about when we let ourselves down, but we'll consider all day about how we've let other people down. And the thing is that when you're willing to not let yourself down, you won't let others down too. And that's why I say, I'll say, go ahead.
Can I interrupt you? And I don't mean to,
No,
but I want to touch bases on that, on the importance of not letting yourself down. What does that mean, not letting yourself down?
So when we have goals and tasks, when we don't share those types of things with other people to hold us accountable, because we're not going to be accountable to ourselves. Let's just face it. I mean, a good amount of time we will, but sometimes when we're afraid of those most important things, we won't tell anyone and we won't hold ourselves accountable. So we'll just be like, well, okay, we'll go ahead and we'll let ourselves down. But we'll overlook it and not look at it in that way that we've let ourselves down. We'll just say, oh, well, I'll just get to it someday. Right. But really, you let yourself down in that moment. If, for example, your goal was to get your bachelor's degree, but something came up, you're 2 quarters away from finishing, and you don't say, okay, I'm gonna set a goal so that I'm still gonna reach this goal, but I'll just, I have a plan to do it. And when you don't share that with someone who can hold you accountable, or if you don't hold yourself accountable, you'll let yourself down. And then 5 years later, you like, I was so close to finishing that. Right. But you'll make an excuse. So if you excuse yourself, you'll excuse other people. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It makes perfect sense. I wanted you to talk about that, because you're breaking your own heart when you do that stuff. Like you're breaking your own promise. And I think one of the things that I would say burns me a little bit is when people make commitments and they don't keep their commitment. Like that was something that burned me, right? But then I also realized that I was doing that same thing that I didn't like other people doing to me, right? So we're breaking our own hearts, and we may not look at it in that sense. We may look at it as maybe not a big deal, or even noble to set aside our needs for others for the sake of others, or even for the sake of the relationships. And I think that's really important. And so that's why I said, let me interrupt you then. But I did kind of want to go back into that relational part. I know you mentioned about the inability to set boundaries with others, knowing that this is more of a fence, not a wall, right? The people pleasing. Can we get back in to that just a little bit, about the importance of our other relationships and how significant they are? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Because honestly, our other relationships are a training ground for romantic relationships. I think that often we get the misconception that I'm going to be a totally different person in this romantic relationship. I'm going to be everything that they want me to be. And guess what? And 3 months later, you're exactly who you are. Because you can't fake being who you are but so long. Yeah. And honestly, it's just best to just be yourself. But you'll notice who you really are in your other relationships. And that's why they're so important. So for instance, in your friendships, I believe in your friendships, that's really who you are. Like, yeah, we are who we are with our parents and stuff like that. We know how to, face when it comes to certain things with our parents, because we're being respectful and stuff like that. But I think our friends get a unique perspective of us where we're just truly naked and truly who we are. So if you can't, for example, if you can't receive accountability from your best friend, then you won't receive it from anyone else. If you can't receive constructive criticism from someone who's telling you these things because they love you, because they're your friend, and let's be clear, they're a friend, not someone pretending to be a friend, because we know what relationships are fake and what relationships are real, where people are really there for us. Are they allowed to speak into you? If they're not, why is that? What wall have you put up that you feel like you can't be corrected, or that you have no room to go. Because all correction is a way to help us grow. It's a pruning, if you will. It's helping us to remove those negative things and those things about us that aren't useful in any other relationship. So we have to be open to constructive criticism, if you will, or just someone saying, now you was wrong for that. We need to have those relationships because they prepare us for romantic relationships where that in our partner, because we care for them and we love them, when we prepare for that and we can say, I apologize, I was wrong in that situation and I see my fault in that, because we want to make right in our relationships. But absolutely, those relationships are so important and we can't allow them to go to the wayside even when we're in relationship, because what they do is that with our partner, they'll say, no, you was wrong in that, you need to apologize, or no, I agree, but maybe you can say it this way. We can live better when we have wise counsel, and wise counsel comes from our other relationships.
That's good. That's good. I like that. Why is being single an advantage? I think for me, and I say this respectfully. And again, y'all heard my disclaimer, right? There's no way I'm saying you don't need to desire, or there's nothing wrong with desiring a relationship, but I want to talk about the advantages of being single. It's always looked down as a disadvantage. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it irritates me in a way that allows me to want to talk about it in a different light. Mm-hmm. And what is the advantage? Because I think people don't look at the advantage of it. I mean, I can go on and on, but what is the advantage of it?
They don't, but the greatest advantage is you can focus on you. Uninhibited, nothing can stop whatever you're trying to do. That's the best part of singleness.
What does that mean, focus on you? And the reason why I'm asking these questions, because how often we hear, I'm doing me, I'm a focus on me, So, I mean, we hear that, but what does that look like for that person? You know what I mean?
And that sounds cute. and a lot of people who say that, I don't believe that's truly what they're doing. They're trying to get attention. But truly focusing on you is all the things that we talked about earlier. Truly in singleness, like if you want to go back to school, you don't have to ask anybody. They don't have to come into agreement with that. You just have to agree with yourself. It is an advantage because it helps you to develop other relationships uninhibited. You don't have to bring your spouse or your partner into your relationships. It helps you to be a better person. It teaches you what you need to learn to better yourself. And sometimes in relationships, we don't get that opportunity to do that, because if we can be honest, relationships are about serving. We think we coming in to just receive whatever we want. But the truth is, it's like I said earlier, we're adding value to each other. And when you do that, it's because you're serving the other person. Marriage is servitude. Now, I'm divorced, but in marriage, I still believe that marriage is servitude. You have to serve that other person and be willing to serve them every day. And if you're empty and you don't know how to fill yourself up, it's not going to work. And that's why singleness is so important, because when you're single, you get to learn how to, okay, when something rubs me the wrong way, how do I deal with that? And you can fail at that as many times as you need to without hurting someone else. So that's an advantage. You get to figure out, what do I need to feel loved? And then do that to yourself, and then reciprocate it to others, and learn how to love others. How do they need to be loved? What do they need help with? You learn how to serve. And to me, that is the best part of being single. Because when I was single, I ain't asked nobody nothing. If I want to go out of town, I want to travel, I'm out of here. Do I got enough money in my account? Am I going to be good till next month? All right, cool. I'm out. I don't have to consider someone else's feelings. And I got to build relationship with me. And in me building relationship with me, it helped me to be a better person for myself, to create boundaries so I have better relationships with other people. It helped me to grow and be a beautiful flower.
Yeah. No, that's good. There's so much to talk about. Oh my goodness. I love that it is about serving. And going on that journey for me, the biggest advantage was healing
Yeah.
within. And just going back, one of the things that I realized was like, this is all about serving each other. And if I can be honest, I served where I was empty. Okay. And
That's good.
so one thing that we hear a lot, and I'm sure you hear this too in your community, is I don't know who I am. I've lost myself. That is probably the most known statement I hear for quite a few women who are transitioning out of a relationship, right? Just identity crisis, not knowing who they are, never saved anything for themselves so that they can, take that from their overflow and give it to their families. And so that's why oh my God, I love that. I think that is so important. I want to talk about the Date Thyself movement, right? I know, she's known as the Date Thyself Coach. Okay, so for those who are listening, that's her name on Instagram, and I'm definitely going to put it down in the show notes. What is the Date Thyself movement, and why do you feel like this is needed?
Oh, it is so needed because what I found with my clients and even with myself at one time, we are unfulfilled, overachieving type women where, if we're honest, we're people pleasers, but we're so unfulfilled because sometimes we don't know how to ask for help. Sometimes we don't think we're worthy of help because people have put
Mm,
this superwoman cape on us that says that we can do anything. So obviously, we don't need support, we don't need help. And that is the furthest from the truth. What I needed in every season, that especially in relationship, is that I need support. And we all
mm.
need support in some way. We need somewhere to let our hair down, take the cape off, because I don't like the superwoman cape. I like balance.
Girl, I have
Okay.
burned that cape. Let me tell you, I had a whole funeral with that cape. It's so toxic. I
It
don't even
is.
have a better word for it. It's toxic. It's killing us as women. Girl, I burnt that thing. I had a funeral and laid that thing to rest. You hear me?
Yes,
But
ma'am.
yes, go ahead.
Absolutely. But that was part of the reason why I created this community, because we need a safe place where we can say, I've lost who I am. And
Mhm.
I've had clients who've dug through my digital products and were like, I did not know that I had lost myself so much in my
Yeah.
marriage, in my relationship, in my singleness. Like I didn't realize how far away from me I've gotten. Where for me, if you put all of this into practice, these are things that you can take into your relationships. Singleness is the perfect opportunity for you to practice these types of things so that you can master them. So then when you are in relationship, you never lose yourself again. Because the truth
Mm.
of the matter is that at some point, your spouse or that partner is going to have to leave at some point, be it by death or be it by choice. They are going to leave at some point, and you still have to be an individual. Yes, the two come together to become one, but we are still an individual, and you still have to be a whole individual, whether you're in relationship, romantic relationship or not. And that's why this community is so important, because I want women to remember who they are, to remember how to fill themselves back up again, to be in a community who pour back into them as well. Because a lot of times it's hard to find relationships, friendships where we're receiving, where there's a reciprocation, where we're receiving what we're putting out. Because sometimes we've all encountered those relationships where people are selfish and they take, and we're like, I'm dying inside over here. I'm not receiving
Right.
anything in return. I need you to help me. I need you to be here for
Mhm.
me, and that was why I created this community, because it is so needed. No matter what your relationship status is, you have to know you first. You have
You,
to love you
oh,
first.
oh, absolutely. You said something I want to kind of like put it back out there. Not once have I heard you say feet, nails, and hair, vacation, retail therapy. And the reason why I wanted to kind of say that was because you're talking about more of a deep inner thing that goes beyond just consumer self-care, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about asking for help, being vulnerable enough to say, I can't do it all. I can't be it all. Being able to burn that superwoman cape and never revisit it. Like for
Yes.
real. I don't know what you got to do. Put some gasoline on it, light a match, whatever. But you didn't say, well, just go get your feet done. And ain't nothing wrong with all those things, right? Because those things are needed to be a part of our self-care. But you didn't go there. So dating thyself is much deeper than going out to dinner, going on a vacation, right? Getting your hair done. So I want you all to like really pay attention to that, because it's more of an inner thing than an outer thing. Yes. And so I just wanted to kind of like bring that back out, because that's something I talk about a lot, about the consumer self-care piece, where it's a sales strategy, it's marketing. It's a way to make you believe that this will make you feel better. And you may have that temporary high, but we're talking about a permanent one now. And that goes into looking deep and looking within. Oh, I love that. How does one do that? Like, again, it's cute, right? Because you said it earlier. It's like, it's cute. But how does one do that? Because it sounds so weird to say I'm dating myself. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
In the beginning, it's like, what you mean? Date yourself? I don't know about that, you know.
And when people see, because I have my shirt, so like when people see that, they be like, I like that. Wait, hold on, I need to do that. What is that? Because it sparks that conversation within themselves, like, well, what is that?
Right.
And the truth is it's all the things that we've talked about. It's about building your confidence. It's about creating ways to help yourself, to things that you can put into daily practice. So for instance, journaling. I will talk about journaling all day, and because it just goes back to those inner thoughts. Right. What are you thinking? What are you thinking about yourself? What are you thinking about how you're traveling through life? You have to look at, and you said about the cosmetic stuff, but what goes on the inside will overflow into the outside. What do we love about an attractive woman? She looks confident. Her skin look clear. You're like, dang, how she do? But we forget the work that it takes to be that type of woman. Absolutely. And that's the type of woman that we want to be. We want to be attractive to ourselves. Absolutely. What does the best you look like? What, and write that down. What does the best you think? How does she look? What does she take time to do daily for herself? Because this is a daily practice. This ain't
this a lifestyle, baby.
Yes, it is a lifestyle. This is something that you have to do daily and put into practice. Everything is practical. You can't just think it and be like, oh, I'm going to manifest it. And
abracadabra.
Oh, yeah. And keep the
this whole manifestation, girl, listen, when I tell you, it's certain things that just make me say, oh, I just, go ahead. Yes.
It take action, baby. It take action. That's all I'm going to say. Like, absolutely. yes, we need to write it down. Yes, we need to ponder it. But if there is no action behind it, it's not getting done. So I know I kind of went off to the side of what your question was, but honestly, just wanted to say that it's a daily practice of doing inner work and not feeling like there is no place where you've like arrived. You just keep evolving. You don't necessarily arrive like, oh, I am the bestest, but I believe that we all continue to evolve. And because I'm like, if you done evolving, it's time to go on to glory. That means it ain't nothing else left for you to do.
Right. There's always something going on when you got breath in your body.
Absolutely. So, it's just all of that inner work and knowing that it will just be on the outside of you. Like, I seen this clip on Instagram where this girl, she said she was doing the carry walk. So if you ever seen Sex in the City, she always doing this like skip, but she looks really happy. And I find myself like, when I've done the things, when I've, I just, it just, you
Right.
just
That's how
feel
you
that way.
feel. Absolutely.
You have that type of confidence. You walk confident into your relationship with yourself as well as your relationship with others. You can give freely without feeling like it's not going to be reciprocated, because you know that it will be reciprocated because you've done all the things that you're supposed to do.
I like that. I like that. I know we're pressing for time, and I just have a couple of more questions. And one of those
Sure.
questions is because I know earlier I talked about Valentine's Day, but again, but I also said this goes beyond just one day. But I do know that that day is coming, and that weekend, it can be heavy for people. I mean, that's just the facts, right? And I'm never the person to say dismiss it. I'm always tuned on being honest with how you feel. But one thing I also want to encourage people is to also embrace and reframe things, so that way they can enjoy all seasons of life, all days of life, right? So what are some of the things that women can do, um, to also enjoy Valentine's Day, even if they're not in a relationship?
Absolutely. I would absolutely say, well, first of all, I want to say it's Super Bowl weekend too. Like, it's so much going on. So I know there are going to be so many festivities, but one thing that I love to do is build relationship. Get with other women who are in relationship and have a brunch. Cook at your
Mhm.
home. Offer your home up, or find somewhere for you to go where you can go and enjoy each other's company. And then when you get back to company by yourself, journal about it so that you can remember that this was one of the ways that I can conquer that loneliness, where I can build relationships, where I can enjoy myself. Now, me, I'm a foodie, I'm a fat girl. So for me, I look at Valentine's Day differently, because I'll go somewhere where they having that 2-for-1, and I'm like, oh, one gonna be for dinner and lunch, and then one I'm gonna eat right now. So I take myself out on a date and I go and I enjoy myself, dinner and a movie or whatever those things are like, or I'll go wine tasting because I do enjoy wine. So there's so many festivities going on. You can go to a Super Bowl party. You can make that a whole spa day where you just focus on you and
Mhm.
show that love and respect back to yourself through journaling, through taking, even now, y'all ain't gonna like this one, even working out. Because if you go and you work out, it is a way to clear your mind. It is a way to do something great for yourself, for your body. So that may have been one of your goals for this year, is to start working out again. Use that weekend to do all those things that you promised yourself you were going to do. Those things
Absolutely.
that you said you were going to start doing. Do that weekend and celebrate yourself. Women, we
Mhm.
often don't, and I'm guilty of this too. We don't often celebrate our wins. We don't celebrate the great things that are going on in our lives. When you are grateful, it totally changes your perspective. So
Absolutely.
if nothing else, look around and take an opportunity to say, I am thankful for, and list all those things. And let me tell you, it'll change your mood so fast.
No, that's good. This is my last question.
Mhm.
Because I know someone's probably listening and saying, Jocelyn, I hear you, but this, being single sucks. And, I don't know how to be by myself. And I mean, these are real things that people may not say, but they are thinking it. And they actually believe that to be very accurate. They could be going through a divorce in this season. This could be their first Valentine's Day alone, being single. This may just be just new altogether, because again, when you are connected, you do join, even if it's not the most healthiest dynamic, it was still familiar and is not there. And so, what would you like to say to that woman who's having that type of challenge right now during this season?
I'm gonna say feel your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to stay in that place, but sometimes we try to shut down our feelings because it seemed as negative or it's a bad thing, but it's not. A lot of times we're stuck in the past because we didn't feel our feelings. If you're upset, it's okay to be upset. Journal about why you're upset so that you
Mm-hmm.
can let it go. And so
Mm-hmm.
that you can also learn from it and you can say, okay, this is what I would like to do differently. Be reflective. It is okay, but don't stay in that place. For me, when I'm upset, I give myself at least a day to be upset, get angry, toss furniture and stuff like that. But then I also try to be as solution oriented as possible because I love me and I deserve that. I don't deserve to be in bondage to the past or in bondage to what somebody did to me. And number two, forgive yourself. As the first lesson that I teach all my clients, forgive yourself, because oftentimes we think we're over something, but a lot of times we're not because we didn't forgive ourselves for what we deemed that we allowed to happen, for what we ignored, for letting people get the best of us because we thought we were doing the right thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Forgive yourself. And then go have some fun. Allow yourself, you are worthy of having fun. You are worthy from moving on from that. And I can speak to that because I'm divorced. I got divorced last year. So I totally understand that place. But the hardest part was forgiving myself for what, because I am inside myself, I kept ignoring that thing that said that this isn't right. This isn't how you deserve to be treated. You deserve better. And it was like, but I'm doing all the things. Maybe he'll change. You can't change people. It is not your job to change people, and people will change when they're ready. Do not hold yourself in bondage to that. Feel your feelings. Journal, please get it out your head. Go to therapy if you need to. Go to counseling if you need to. You know, I thank God for churches who offer therapy and counseling. Go get you some counseling if
and
you
divorce
need
care.
to.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Go get those things and don't be ashamed. And you don't have to share that with other people. If you want to go to therapy, it's okay for you to go to therapy without telling anyone. You may not be ready for that, but please don't suffer in silence. Get the help that you need. Take off that superwoman cape. And as our sis said, burn it.
Burn it, baby. Have a funeral with it.
Have a funeral with it and say, I deserve better. But it starts with me. And today I am releasing all of this stuff, and write it down so you understand what you're releasing. Go to therapy if you need to. I can't stress that enough. And then not just because I'm a coach, but it works. Get you a coach when you're ready. You need a good life coach who's going to hold you accountable, who's going to love on you and help you reach your goals. But what we not going to do is support you not being solution oriented. We want to help you get to the solution, and we want to be solution oriented. So when you're ready, get you a coach that's going to help you and that's going to get you to your next level.
Oh, man, that's good. I love that. I love that. Feel your feelings. Okay. That is the most important but undervalued thing that doesn't get talked about enough. And so I love that. How can people find you, Jocelyn?
Well, you can find me. My website is www.thedatethyselfcoach.com. My Instagram and Facebook is at the Date Thyself Coach. You can email me at info@thedatethyselfcoach.com. Y'all see this thing going right. The Date Thyself Coach. But that's where you can find me. You can, and I'm not one of those people that be like, don't DM me and all that. You better slide up in my DM now. If you, for all my ladies that's listening, I am more than honored to serve you. I am a person who serves. So if you have any questions, always feel free to email me or DM me. I have no problem with that.
Thank you so much. I'm going to put down all your information from your social media handle, your website. I'm going to put all of that into the show notes. Okay. So thank you so much again, Jocelyn. I really appreciate you. I enjoyed this conversation. I think it was much needed, a great way to help people really embrace not just this month, but all the other months of the year. So thank you again, and you take care.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.